But I have to get your initial thoughts because everybody's talking about this debt ceiling deal. What are you thinking about the deal that Biden made with McCarthy?
Well, we all know, I've been around long enough, that we're not going to default into debt. And this kind of drama happens every few years, and we look at each other, and both sides blink, and ultimately we raise the debt ceiling. The only way to really rein in spending, because both parties spend, is for an amendment to the Constitution to fix spending to a certain percentage of the GDP, with exceptions for war and for natural disaster. I'm old enough to remember when Ronald Reagan came in, promising to cut this, cut that. A bunch of young Turks began working for him. One of them was a guy named David Stockman. He was his head of Office of Management and Budget. After a few years, Stockman resigned, wrote a book called The Triumph of American Politics, where he talked about all of these programs that were on the chopping block, and then special interest person after special interest person came in, and next thing you know, that program was saved. So when Ronald Reagan left, while he did cut the top marginal tax rate from 70% to 50%, and then from that to 28%, government was around 30% larger than it was when he first came in. I think the only president in recent times that actually came in with a smaller government than when he left was Calvin Coolidge, and that was in the 20s. So the only way to restrain spending is to do an amendment to fix spending, as I said earlier. Because the driver of the debt and deficit are the so-called entitlement programs, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, now Obamacare, and a few other programs for children. And they are on automatic pilot. And woe to any politician that vows to cut those programs or to reform those programs, because then they'll have a commercial showing him pushing somebody off the cliff in a wheelchair. The word unsustainable was used to describe these programs by Bill Clinton. The word unsustainable was used to describe these programs by Barack Obama, yet nobody does anything because they don't want to face the wrath of the voters come election time. So the only way to restrain the spending, one more time, is through an amendment so that politicians have to go into a room, lock the door, come out with spending cuts and say, the devil made me do it.
Well, one of the things that our viewers are really interested in this deal is that we're pushing back the repaying of student loans for another couple months in this deal. And then obviously there's a lot of conversation around Joe Biden's forgiveness for student loans. What do you think on that?
Again, this deal is all smokes and mirrors. We don't get back to pre-COVID levels. The loan forgiveness program is still pretty much intact, and it's outrageous. All that spending for climate change is still there. Again, so as far as I'm concerned, it's a deal that we should not have made. But as I said before, no one's going to default on the debt. Nobody wants to take the blame for that. And so inevitably, I knew that there was going to be some sort of deal that would be made. The Freedom Caucus is never going to be satisfied. The only way they're going to be satisfied is for there to be true cuts. The only way there can be true cuts is to reform the entitlements programs. And again, the only way to do that is through the amendment, as I said.